From Austin Film Festival, this is On Story, a look inside the creative process from today's leading writers, creators, and filmmakers. This week on Story, we'll speak with Katrin Benedikt, co-writer of the non-stop political action thrillers Olympus Has Fallen, London Has Fallen, and Expendables 3.
When you talk about an action movie, it's obviously about, possibly revenge or whatever. It's about survival initially, right? So action movies really are surviving something. And then once you survive it, it's also about then finding some meaning in that life that you've survived to live.
A true lover of action movies, Benedikt discusses crafting characters for star-studded casts and working with genre experts Antoine Fuqua and Sylvester Stallone. She details her experiences working for 10 years to forge a career as a screenwriter, pitching the same story for years on end and building her portfolio before striking gold with Olympus Has Fallen. You have an interesting background. How did you get from the things you were doing to be writing movies where stuff blows up?
Well, so I was born in Reykjavik, Iceland. I moved to the States when I was 6. My mother remarried someone in the U.S. Navy, and that's what brought us to the U.S. And then I grew up on a naval base. I grew up with brothers. There were no princess costumes in my childhood, so it was all about, playing football and running around outside and watching action movies and that sort of thing. But I actually, after college, started working in employee benefits and pensions and investments and 401k plans, and I did that for about 15 years. And I got to a point where I was like, is this all there is? I didn't have that passion. And so I thought, well, what else is out there? And I decided to take a screenwriting class, because I literally just sat down and I just said, what do I love? I did that thing where you kind of make that list of like, what do I love? And at the time I was like, well, I love movies. I love writing. I love stories. I love reading People magazine. And so I ended up just signing up for this screenwriting class and fell in love with it. But the road to get from that point was a solid 10 years. From that first class that I took back in 2000 until Olympus Has Fallen sold in 2012. So it was a long road and basically a huge sacrifice in so many ways.
So let's talk about Olympus Has Fallen, because it was an original, right, from you guys, but it's turned into now a series of films that are still being made. And you had a co-writer, you guys worked together. Yep. Can you talk a little bit about that relationship and then how you developed this story and why you took it out there?
I actually met my former writing partner. We don't write together anymore, but we met at that screenwriting class. And so we just had this passion for writing, and we were writing, believe it or not, we were writing action together. We were also writing some family and animation together. So the idea for the whole Has Fallen franchise was my former writing partner, because he basically said, what would be the hardest place in the world to take over? And at that time, he was thinking, the White House. Now, this was before 9/11. So at the time the script was initially finished, trying to sell it was impossible because 9/11 had just happened. Nobody had the appetite for anything terrorist related or anything like that, especially here in the U.S.
When did it start to actually feel like it got momentum? And what were the things that you feel like gave it that momentum?
This is a crazy story. So when we came out to L.A., and we were pitching it. It's Die Hard in the White House. It's Die Hard in the White House. And it's time for a new one. And the people that got it. So when we came out to LA, time is your enemy. You got to figure out how you're going to make it. And it's very expensive to live in LA. I mean, we drained retirement accounts that we had from our corporate jobs. We were all in. And we came out, we were living off of this money. And then the writer's strike hit of 2007, 2008. And we thought, oh my gosh, the timing could not have been worse. So what ended up happening after that was I got into a fender bender. And this girl hops on, she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, it was all my fault. And we ended up following her to this random mechanic. And then car got fixed, everything was fine. But we ended up saying there's a movie there. What happens if an ordinary fender bender turns into your worst nightmare? So we pursued that, and that became a script we had called Callie. And I'm getting to the answer to your question. So Callie became kind of our new spec, like sample script, our kind of calling card. Again, this very low point where I basically said, oh my God, we need plan B. And I remember my writing partner, he just looked straight at me and just said, there is no plan B. And I was like, okay, all right, so what do we do? So we said, okay, what do we have? We have fans of our writing. One of those fans was a guy named Mark McCudowicz. He was working for Sidney Kimmel Entertainment, and we ended up meeting with this junior agent, and unbeknownst to us, he happened to report to one of the partners at Gersh. And at the same time, through our entertainment lawyer, got Kaplan Perone, and all of us as a team, they basically went through everything we had and said, we're going out with Olympus Has Fallen. And that's how that whole thing happened. So if I didn't get into the fender bender, seriously, if I did not get into that fender bender in Los Feliz when I was feeding Kirstie Alley's lemurs, I don't know if Olympus Has Fallen would have sold, because we wouldn't have written Callie. Callie got us all that attention, and then getting Olympus Has Fallen out there again.
Sir, Cerberus has been activated.
What?
NORAD confirms.
How did it come to this? We lost Korea, and now our nukes?
It couldn't have broken the code.
That would be impossible. They'd be on the bunker computer for days to break 3 codes.
He only needed to break 1 code.
But we haven't launched any missiles.
They're going to detonate them in the silos.
How many?
All of them.
Was the fact that even at that time that a woman is attached to this action film a negative at all, or was it an impediment in any way? Or?
I will say it was interesting because the first time we met Jerry Butler, and this is after the script sold, and we were getting together with him, Antoine Fuqua, the director, and a Secret Service agent that was working as a consultant on the project. So we all get together there, and when we walked up to him to say, hey, hi, we're the writers, he had to do a double take. Like, he literally was like, and it might have been just because, I don't know if we both look kind of, I don't know if me especially, I look soft, but I'm a girl. But yeah, he was shocked. He was like, oh gosh, I didn't expect such, like, riveting action to come from. And that just goes to show, honestly, you just can't judge a book by its cover. All I did growing up was watch action movies. So, I mean, RoboCop, my favorite movie of all time, Terminator, Jaws, when Quint's sliding into the shark. I mean, these are these moments when I was growing up where I was like, oh my God. So
that didn't stop you in any way from moving forward with that. And how did that relationship, because I think the relationships with agents are a little mysterious.
Well, a lot of times they don't get you a job, but they'll get you into rooms. They'll help the manager and the agent through their contacts will get you into rooms. You get into rooms, you make an impression, you have those writing samples ready, and then you're able to, brainstorm with them on any ideas that they currently have or whatever. So yeah, you are getting your own jobs in a lot of cases. You also have to take control of your own destiny to the extent that you can.
Coming out of this corporate financial world and you're feeding lemurs, and all of a sudden you're thrown into an actual deal. You're going to meet with the actor who's going to be involved with it and the production team. And it's like, okay, we're moving forward. But you have no experience in this. You do have a Cinderella story in a way.
Absolutely. I would say that any movie that gets made in Hollywood is a Cinderella story. It's a miracle that any movie gets made because of everything that goes into it and all of the buy-in that needs to happen every step of the way. What happened with Olympus Has Fallen was when we signed with Gersh, it was October of 2011. And I remember I said to my writing partner, oh my gosh, we need to get the script out as soon as possible. And thank God, because White House Down sold 2 weeks after. It was unbelievable. So once that happened, because we had a competing project with Olympus Has Fallen, and because Millennium had optioned it at that point and said, okay, we were nervous. We were like, are they going to drop it now? And they just decided, nope, we're going to make this movie. They literally said, we're starting pre-production now. And I was actually working a corporate job at this point. I had gone back because we were literally down to, I'm not kidding you, like the last $5,000 in the world. We immediately went to Louisiana, did pre-production with the crew. And some of the unexpected things that come up are things like, we've written some things that have water. They'll say, water's too expensive. We're not doing water. That has to change. Oh, okay. Then, the production designer will say, we're not building the south side of the White House, so we can't have people coming out of it. It's going to be CGI, so people are going to look ridiculous. So you're going to have to do, you got to change that. So once the reality came of that whole moment of, you start out with getting initial notes from your reps, then you get notes from the studio after they buy it. And then we met with Antoine Fuqua and the Secret Service guy and Gerard Butler, and we got all of their notes. And then after that, we go to pre-production and we get the productions people's notes because they have to actually make it happen. So And that was a little surprising because we thought that kind of maybe filtered through the director or something. We don't get involved with that, right? Yeah, you do. You get involved with everything, as you should, because you're shepherding that script.
Was that script largely what we saw with Olympus Has Fallen?
So much of it was changed. So it was things like when we got to pre-production, and we had the Secret Service consultants there, which were very helpful. And they basically said, hey, if we were going to take over the White House, this is what we would do. And we had these conversations about it. And part of it was we wanted a lot of things to be as realistic as possible, but at the same time, we also don't want to draw a map for terrorists either, right? So I read a lot of stuff online where they just like, oh, there's a plot hole here, there's a plot hole there, and a plot hole there. Well, yeah, okay, it's kind of good that there is, isn't it? Some of the things that were actually real in real life that we put in the movie, people didn't believe, and vice versa. But I'll tell you one big thing that did change too. So our original movie, we wanted it to say something. And what we wanted it to say was, what would happen if terrorists got a hold of the president's son and he had to make a decision? Save millions of Americans or save my son? When we went to the set, Jerry came up to us, so nice, so great, just perfect for this role. And he said, I hope you guys don't mind, but Connor's not gonna be in the whole movie. Because we had him in there for the whole movie. We're gonna get him out, like after like an hour. Because, I'm not gonna, because it's just too lumbersome to be, an action hero and you have to carry this kid around. And, he made a good point. So it was like totally a different than what we wrote. When we met Antoine Fuqua the first time, he said, what is this movie about? And I said, redemption. And he said, but what's this movie about? And so he goes, it's about going home.
How's your day been?
Yeah, it's been busy. It's good, How about you?
Yeah. Busy?
Hey, you okay?
Yeah, I've had to stay a little later than I expected.
Yeah, me too.
You're gonna come home tonight, right?
Yeah, sure. We got a date, remember? Yeah, I gotta go. Them's, paperwork's piling up.
Okay.
I love you.
You have a scene in there that's still, well, it's a variety of scenes that are pretty brutal, like and where they're taking out the people one by one to get the codes. And to me, that's just, I wonder, like, when you first wrote that script to when it actually happened, which was quite a bit of time different. Was that something that was in the original script, that section of pulling each one of them out and really, like, threatening their life and beating the crap out of it?
I remember that, like with Melissa Leo's character, Secretary of Defense Ruth McMillan, and I know that Antoine Fuqua said she's going to get the crap kicked out of her. It doesn't matter that she's a woman; she's going to take it, and she's going to be a badass. And that was really an Antoine Fuqua note, that it was going to be that brutal and to that level. And Kang, oh my gosh, I mean, Rick Yoon is amazing. I mean, best villain ever. But yeah, those types of things were written, but then they would get, ramped up. And that was definitely an Antoine Fuqua note. I mean, he wanted to show it that, I want the audience to feel that this is what it would look like. It's awful. It's war. It's a disaster on U.S. soil on every level, and that's what it looks like.
Attention up. Madam Secretary, your Cerberus code.
No.
Ruth. Your code!
You have to kill me.
As you wish.
Let's talk about Expendables 3, because you've just worked on your original idea, and now you're being handed this franchise from probably one of the biggest franchise guys out there, Sylvester Stallone. What was that process like, as far as how you then had to shift your mindset from here's the way we were working, now here's the way we have to work?
Expendables 3 was a wonderful experience on so many levels. To start out with, it was, this is a job that our reps got us. They said it was an open writing assignment. They were looking for someone to co-write with Stallone. and do you want to put your hat in the ring? We said, absolutely. They said, well, come up with your take. So if you go up for an open writing assignment or anything like that, they're asking you to come up with, well, what would be your take for Expendables 3? What would you do? And we decided that it should go in the direction of having like the Expendables, and then we'd have this other team of like the evil Expendables. Someone who they really are worried about, that these guys could actually defeat us. These guys could actually, kick our butts. We drove up to Stallone's house, and I'm not even a starstruck person, but I grew up watching Rocky. I went to high school and grew up outside of Philadelphia, and so to actually be sitting there in Sylvester Stallone's living room is surreal. So we pitched our idea and got along with him great. And it was funny because when we were leaving, he goes, yeah, he goes, I think this is going to happen. And we said, oh, okay. We walk outside and we're like, he thinks it's going to happen or happen with us? We know the movie's going to happen, but is it going to happen with us? A few days later, we got the call and we got the job, which we were so thrilled about. So our take got us in the room, and he liked our take, but he kind of already had in his mind what he wanted to do for the story. And so he wanted to do the young and old Expendables, and he wanted to kind of show their age and say, oh, do we really have it in us anymore? And should we really be in this line of business and that sort of thing?
Amateur.
Amateur. Who you calling, Pa?
Grandpa's about to crush your windpipe.
What's this? Your toy? Boy.
You want to dance, big guy?
Hey!
It's just a job.
Come on, let's go. Bunch of has-beens still trying to be hard. You're young and you're dumb.
We were invited to come to Bulgaria. We were there for 2 months. And we worked with them every day in Bulgaria on the script. And because that cast was so huge, they were still casting when we were filming. So Kelsey Grammer was one of the last characters to get cast. So, the whole time you're writing, they're like, okay, they're thinking about this actor. Okay, and then we write the thing. And no, now it's Kelsey Grammer. Well, that's not Kelsey Grammer. We got to write it for Kelsey Grammer now. So it literally was like we were just changing it. But the biggest thing that happened was when we got to set was they said, oh, okay, Terry Crews is only going to be here for like a day. We're like, what? What do you mean he's only going to be? Well, he just got Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So we were like, oh, okay, well, he's in the whole script right now. Well, we got to change it. I said, okay, we're going to kill him. And then, okay, he's dead. No, he's not dead. He's just going to be injured, but he's going to be in a coma for the whole movie. We were just constantly making changes the whole time, we were there. We're literally just writing and working the whole time because we sat there, I think one of the photographers on set said, hey, you guys were here at 7 a.m. in the lobby, and I came back at like midnight. You guys were still there. I'm like, yeah, that's called writing. That's how it works.
Now it's a different writing partner. And how easy is it to say, that's a terrible idea. Let's not do that. Or, you know what I mean? Like it seems like that might be scary.
Yeah, you don't do that to Sly. But it was more like we were just literally going line by line. I mean, it was literally like, okay, so this section with this. No, I want him to do this little, and then we all would just chime in on what we thought should happen there. I'm actually, and I'm bragging a little bit here, but I'm really proud of creating and writing for Galgo, which was Antonio Banderas' character. When we were on set, Antonio Banderas called. He's a chatterbox. And I thought, oh my God, he is the sweetest, nicest human, and just so excited. And he was talking about coming to set and all this stuff. And so when we were writing his character and stuff, I said, I think it'll be great if he's always talking. And it's annoying the hell out of Sly.
I want to be your friend.
I don't need a friend.
Yes, you do. Everybody does. I don't have any friends. That's why I know. But besides my friendship issues, what I really need now is something to do. Well, not just anything, but what I was born to do.
Best bet. There's a one-way trip.
Excuse me, sir, but one-way trip is better than no way, which is the way I live now.
Help me with the crate.
So?
Everyone thinks he was let go, from his prior team, and in reality, they were all killed except for him. So now he has Survivor's Guild, he misses these guys. And I thought it was interesting to have him be really funny but have this backstory that was really sad. And I actually really liked that moment in Expendables when Sly asks him, why were you let go from your team? And he's like, I wasn't let go, and he explains the story. And then Sly repeats their names, remembering them, and said, I was listening, and he said, thank you. And I thought that was a really good moment.
That is a challenging film, I would imagine, writing, just because there were so many characters. And were there ever points on that where you guys discussed that, like how that was going to work and how to really develop all those characters?
I think the difficult thing was trying to show these characters with any depth, and that was hard. And I'm not even convinced that we had the time to really do that. But the montage sequence was huge in introducing all the younger guys, and we needed to do that montage because it was a very quick way to say, ooh, boom, 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 here's who they are. But the most challenging thing was giving those shining moments to the existing stars, like Jason Statham. So, he's used to having those moments where he shines because he's a phenomenal actor and he's a great action star. And having time to give him his due.
So you just pulled a plug and that's it?
Just did.
Yeah? Well, it doesn't work that way.
What?
We've been through the mud, the blood, and I've saved you times and I can count. You owe me a shot, this son of a took Caesar down.
We're not doing that.
No join. I joined for the whole ride.
I know you did. Ride's over.
So it feels like things are going well, right? And then the opportunity for London Has Fallen happens, right? Like it must have felt good to have Olympus Has Fallen do so well. What was that process afterwards like?
We knew pretty much the first night with the tracking numbers, and we got a call from Mark Hill saying, hey, it's going to be a huge hit. We were so incredibly thrilled. Like, just, you can't even imagine. I mean, even just starting from when you're driving around LA and you see billboards for your movie. I mean, you literally we pull the car over, oh my God, we gotta get a picture, this is crazy. But when that happened and we were told we were gonna do the sequel, so we already had this idea, and I was thinking, what about the G8 or the G7, depending upon which year we're talking about, but, that's an event that, oh my God, that's a worldwide event that everybody would, so we said, we should do it in Brussels, it'll be like the G7. And then they got back to us, that great idea, but we get tax credits in London. So we're doing it in London. Okay, we're going to do London. All right. So, you then just got to pivot and say, all right, so what's going to happen in London? All right, well, we're going to have the prime minister. He's going to die. Mysterious circumstances. What happened? It's going to be a funeral. Everybody needs to, get there. All the heads of states are going to gather with short notice, which is also a lot of tension and stress for Secret Service and protective details. And so we kind of went that route.
So what happens then? Because you two create this character, Mike Banning. I mean, now he really is IP, right? And now Gerard Butler probably has something to say about what Mike Banning should do.
Absolutely.
So how did that next step work? Because I think that's an interesting transition to, we kind of don't own this thing we put out into the world anymore.
Oh, I mean, it happens a lot, where, you might start off with a franchise, even if you create it and go a certain way. When you sell a script to Hollywood, not a book, but a script, you're in essence, in order to sell the script, to get it set up, you're transferring your rights to the studio. And that's part of that legal process. So it isn't yours anymore. On London Has Fallen, it made sense to go from the domestic to the world stage. That totally made sense. Keeping Mike Banning badass, keeping him moving forward in his life, because I think when you talk about an action movie, it's obviously about survival initially, right? So action movies, really, you're surviving something. And then once you survive it, it's also about then finding some meaning in that life that you've survived to live. And that's kind of where he goes, with, of course, having the baby on his way, realizing now how important it is to have that time for his wife and for family and for balance and things like that, which I thought was really a great thing to introduce. You have to have those moments where people can pause and catch their breath. So that's important, of course. But I think at the end of the day, you're still wanting to develop these characters to the best that you can in an action movie, which of course is challenging, more so than I think in other genres. And it's just about pacing. And I think once you write it, when you go back to read it, you'll have a feel for it.
You've been watching a conversation with Katrin Benedikt on Story. On Story is part of a growing number of programs in Austin Film Festival's On Story project that also includes the On Story radio program, podcast, book series, and the On Story archive, accessible through the Whitliff Collections at Texas State University. To find out more about On Story and Austin Film Festival, visit onstory.tv or austinfilmfestival.com.